Hi, it's me, Joyce, just talking, just singing, and just talking about why I do the Joyce Aldrich show, both the Arts and Entertainment edition and the Paranormal and UFO edition. They can be seen here on YouTube, Spotify, and Patreon. Those are the platforms that I'm on. Now, I can say that I was on radio for quite a few years on CHHA 1610 AM. I had a show there, both the Joyce Aldrich show and another one called A Drink of Water. And I really enjoyed my time there, but it was time for me to actually break away and do my podcast, because podcasting is going to be very big. So it's the way to go, and it's also something I can do, have more autonomy with. That being said, I've always enjoyed promoting other people, helping other people, other artists with their work. I am a singer-songwriter, and I am a professional singer. And I was in a Cuban band for 11 years, and I was raised in an entertainment family. My mother was Rockin' Irene at the Brunswick House, but before that, we lived in Ottawa, because I'm from Ottawa, Hull. I was born a French-Canadian girl, raised French-Canadian Roman Catholic, but I was born a Jew. Yeah, my great-grandmother was a Jew, a Dutch Jew, but it's hard to be a Jew, and she professed Protestantism, married a French Canadian here in Canada after they emigrated from Holland to England down to the States, actually, Ellis Island, and she was a cleaning lady and cleaning girl back in the early 1900s, scared young teenager cleaning houses, and then she came to Canada and married my great-grandfather, who's French Canadian. So that's my French-Canadian background, on both sides, my mother's and my father's, actually. Although my father's father was a homeboy. He came from Brighton, England, and he was one of those Dr. Barnardo children, whose parents could not take care of them anymore. My great-grandmother's husband died. He was a photographer, and he had an accident when he was 42, died, and she couldn't take care of the boys, so she sent them to French Canada and English Canada. My grandfather went to French Canada. So that's basically my background. So I've got French, Belgian, Irish, Welsh, English, Scottish, Dutch, French. I'm a Northwestern European background girl. But there's also a little Romanian in there, my mother tells me, from about several generations back. And that would bring in the one aspect of why I do the show, the Paranormal and UFO edition, because my mom, she used to read cards. She used to spread out that Ouija board thing. She used to put the letters and the numbers out. Anyway, but she was very psychic, and it runs in our family. And Aunt Valerie used to tell cards and fortunes and read tea leaves and palms in little shops in Ottawa in 1930s and 40s and 50s. So yeah, it's that kind of background. So I'm very involved in the paranormal, psychic side of things. So I want to separate that, of course, from the arts and entertainment. When it comes to the arts and entertainment, again, my mother, who was Rockin' Irene at the Brunswick House for 27 years, but in Ottawa, she was also she was a singer, an actress, a producer. She was involved in the theater there, and she pinch hit for Diamond Lil at the Skyline, and that's where she was discovered. And we moved to Toronto when I was 14, and we moved around a lot, like gypsies. So that'd be the Romanian side of our background, I suppose. Well, not really, but by the time I was 17, I lived in 17 different places in 2 provinces and 3 cities. So Quebec, Ontario, Hull, Quebec, which is now Gatineau, Ottawa, and Toronto. So I'm sort of well-traveled in a funny way. But our house is always full of music and people and parties. And I used to go to my mom's rehearsals. And sometimes I even got to be in the show, depending on whether they needed a young person. But it was always, we lived a different kind of a lifestyle. So I did not pursue singing right away. That sort of came a little bit later in my life, because my mom discovered that I had a very good voice when I was 13, but she said there was only room for one singer in the family, and that was her. And so I was only allowed to dance in her shows when I was allowed to be in her shows. Otherwise, no singing. That was her thing. So it was very difficult for me. So I put it aside. I eventually got married, have a couple of kids, got the grandkids, the usual stuff. I had the house, had the, 2 cats in the yard. Life used to be so hard kind of thing. And things can go well. I divorced after 19 years of marriage, and I was outside of Toronto living, and I came back into Toronto and started to pursue my singing again back in 1998, and that's when I met a Cuban band leader, and I became part of his band, and for 11 years I learned some pretty good chops, some Latin chops, some Cuban chops, how to sing in Spanish, and boleritos and cha-cha-cha and guarache, all that kind of stuff, and to sing that, and that was a wonderful experience. It was bittersweet, to be honest. It was bittersweet, but after that 11 years I had left the band. I did try to pursue my singing, but I was a late lifer with this, and my first husband, although he appeared supportive of my singing, there was always, it wasn't quite as supportive as it could have been, and just the way it was. And when you're a stay-at-home mom, you got a couple of kids, and I did try my hand at having a store, the Joyce's Curio Shop, which was a paranormal, psychic kind of, bookstore, jewelry, and indigenous crafts and stuff like that. But yeah, so that's kind of, my eclectic background. So why do I have the Joyce Aldrich Show? Why have I gone on? I was on radio, and also now I'm doing the podcast, because I know how difficult it is for musicians, excuse me, to get their music out there, to be heard. And what I do is I give these beautiful artists, some who are fairly well known in the business, and some who are not. And there's only the 1%. The 1% is the 1%, right? Not everyone's going to make it, but everybody has a story. Everybody needs to be heard. And that's what the Joyce Aldrich Show, Arts and Entertainment, is all about. Now, the other side of things, the Paranormal and UFO edition, well, what's that about? Well, again, I told you about my background with my mom, and that whole thing with the gypsy background. My mother said, all the women have a gift. We have a gift. I don't have the big gift my mother had. I think my daughter has the gift. But maybe I'm not using mine as much as I could, but I do sometimes. Anyway, point is that at the age of 6, I had a UFO contact experience. And my mother also had an experience when she was a little girl. She used to have these golden globes come into her bedroom and play with her, and my mom also bilocated on a few occasions. People saw her, but she wasn't. It's hard to explain. Like when you're supposed to be in Vegas and you turn up at the Brunswick House, you're not supposed to be at the Brunswick House, but you're there. That's weird. And I also showed up in a bilocation once at the Taste of the Danforth, listening to a band. Yeah, 2 police officers noticed me, and when I went 2 days later, they said, "Oh, you were having such a great time the other night on Friday." I said, "No, I was home on Friday night." "No, it was you." So I did I've done a little bilocation on my own. So I'm very interested in the whole idea that it was not an idea. We are not just this flesh and blood meat package here. We're a soul having a physical experience. So we talk about UFO stuff. I have my house psychic, who is the most amazing psychic, Bro Perkins, on the program. And he's internationally well known. He doesn't need me to promote him. He's got his own following, and I'm very fortunate to have him come on the program and share his insights and do the readings that he does. Anyway, so my point is that I really would like everyone to take a look at the channel, the Joyce Aldrich Show, here on YouTube, and have a listen and give my wonderful guests the opportunity to share their stories, their music, And I think you'll enjoy it. You don't have to listen to the old gal here. I'm a little Annie Hall sometimes. You say, what the heck she's talking about? Why don't you just shut up? But in between me, there's great music and great guests. And they've got a lot to share and a lot of wonderful wisdom and anecdotes, all kinds of things. You get to find out who they are. Like you're finding a little bit about little, and I can speak. Find out a little bit about me here today, and I want to thank you so much for liking, subscribing, and sharing, because these people really, really deserve to be listened to be heard. I'm going to be 70 years old this July, so for me to become rich and famous, that's not the point. But I would like the artist to be heard. So if you can do that, that'd be great. And if you've got a channel, I'll subscribe back. Win-win. Okay, thank you so much. And hey, it's Joyce just talking, just singing. So usually I sing a song. Have I gone too long? Possibly. Anyway, next time. But for sure, listen to the wonderful artists I have. And hey, you can listen to my music here on YouTube. It's there. And it's including the stuff I did with the Cuban band. Enjoy. And thank you so much for watching and listening.